Ever wondered who the real-life supervillains are? We're not talking about comic books. We're talking about the masterminds of global criminal empires, the shadowy figures who pull the strings of the underworld. Today, we're diving deep into the world of organized crime to meet the most dangerous mafia leaders who ever lived. These aren't just gangsters. They were CEOs of crime, building dynasties that spanned continents and left a trail of chaos in their wake. So, grab your popcorn, because this is a story you won't want to miss. First up, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Al Capone. When you think of the classic American gangster, Capone is the first name that comes to mind. Ruling Chicago with an iron fist during the Prohibition-era. He was the king of bootlegging, gambling, and a whole lot more. He wasn't just a thug. He was a celebrity. He'd be seen at opera premieres, baseball games, and fancy restaurants, always dressed to the nines. People on the street loved him because he opened soup kitchens during the Great Depression. He cultivated this Robin Hood image. But don't be fooled. Behind the charming smile was a ruthless tactician. The infamous St. Valentine's Day Massacre, where 7 members of a rival gang were lined up against a wall and gunned down, is widely attributed to his orders. That event shocked the nation and showed everyone just how brutal Capone's organization, the Chicago outfit, could be. What's fascinating is that the authorities couldn't pin any of the violent crimes on him. So how did they get him? The IRS. They finally got him on tax evasion. It est the ultimate irony. A man who controlled the city's criminal underworld was taken down by a team of accountants. His story is a classic tale of power, corruption, and the simple truth that even the biggest bosses have to pay their taxes. Now let's travel from the streets of Chicago to the sun-drenched island of Sicily, the birthplace of the Cosa Nostra. Here, we meet Salvatore Riina, also known as the Beast. This nickname wasn't just for show. Riina was the head of the Corleonesi clan, and his reign of terror in the 1980s and 90s was one of the bloodiest periods in Italian history. Unlike Capone's public persona, Riina was a ghost. For nearly a quarter of a century, he was one of the most wanted men in Italy. Yet he lived right there in Sicily, evading capture. His strategy was simple and brutal. Total war. He didn't just target rival mobsters. He went after the state itself. He ordered the assassinations of high-profile judges, prosecutors, and police officials who dared to stand in his way. The most famous of these were Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino, 2 magistrates who were leading the fight against the mafia. Their deaths in 1992 caused a massive public outcry and finally pushed the Italian government to crack down hard. Riina's ruthlessness was his biggest strength and his ultimate downfall. He made so many enemies, even within the mafia, that eventually someone talked. He was captured in 1993, ending a bloody chapter and proving that even the most feared monster can be brought to justice. Next, we head to Colombia, to the empire built by the one and only Pablo Escobar. The king of cocaine is probably the most famous narco-trafficker in history. At the height of his power, his Medellin cartel controlled an estimated 80% of the global cocaine market. The sheer scale of his operation is mind-boggling. We're talking about billions of dollars a year. He was so rich, he had to bury his money because he couldn't launder it fast enough. He had private jets, submarines, and a personal zoo with hippos. Like Capone, he played the man of the people, building hospitals, schools, and housing for the poor in his hometown of Medellin. This earned him loyalty and a popular following. But the other side of the coin was plata, or plomo, silver, or lead. It was a simple choice. Take his bribe, or take a bullet. He was responsible for the deaths of thousands, including politicians, judges, journalists, and police officers, not to mention countless civilians caught in the crossfire of his war against the Colombian state. He even blew up a commercial airliner. Escobar's ambition was his undoing. He wanted to be more than a kingpin. He wanted to be the president of Colombia. This public ambition made him target number 1. After a massive manhunt involving both Colombian and U.S. forces, he was finally tracked down and killed in a rooftop shootout in 1993. His story is a cautionary tale about how absolute power corrupts absolutely. From South America, let's journey to the Far East to meet a different kind of crime lord, Semion. Known as the boss of bosses of the Russian Mafia, Mogilevich is often described as the world's most dangerous gangster. Why? Because he's not your typical street-level boss. The FBI has called him a global threat. He's a university-educated economist. He doesn't get his hands dirty with street-level crime. Instead, he operates in the complex world of international finance. We're talking massive fraud schemes, stock manipulation, arms trafficking, and even alleged deals involving nuclear materials. He's a master of disguise and has used numerous passports to travel the world. His network is said to be incredibly complex, with connections to governments and intelligence agencies. He's like a phantom, a white-collar criminal on a global scale. Unlike the others on our list, Mogilevich has largely avoided long-term imprisonment. He was arrested in Russia once on tax evasion charges, but was released. He lives freely in Moscow today. He has the modern face of organized crime, less about guns and more about manipulating global systems for immense profit. His elusiveness and the sheer scale of his alleged operations make him perhaps the most formidable figure in the criminal underworld today. Finally, we have Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo, which means shorty. As the leader of the Sinaloa cartel, El Chapo took drug trafficking to a whole new level after Escobar. He was an innovator in the smuggling business, known for pioneering the use of sophisticated cross-border tunnels. Some of them were air-conditioned and had railways. His cartel became one of the most powerful and wealthiest in the world, trafficking drugs not just to the US but across the globe. What makes El Chapo's stories so legendary are his prison escapes. Not once, but twice, he managed to break out of maximum security prisons in Mexico. The first time, he was supposedly smuggled out in a laundry cart. The second time was even more dramatic. He escaped through a mile-long tunnel dug directly into the shower of his cell, complete with a motorcycle on rails waiting for him. These escapes turned him into a folk hero for some, a symbol of defiance against a corrupt system. But let's be clear, his reign was incredibly violent, fueling a drug war in Mexico that has cost hundreds of thousands of lives. He was finally recaptured in 2016 after a dramatic shootout and extradited to the United States, where he is now serving a life sentence in a supermax prison. His story is a testament to the endless cat-and-mouse game between law enforcement and these powerful criminal leaders. From Capone's Chicago to El Chapo's Mexico, the stories of these criminal kings are both terrifying and fascinating. They built empires, amassed unimaginable wealth, and held entire nations in their grip. But their stories almost always end the same way, in a prison cell or a hail of bullets. They show us the dark side of ambition and the destructive nature of unchecked power. The world of organized crime is constantly evolving, but the lessons from these notorious leaders remain the same. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the underworld as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most compelling stories. See you next time.